Ladies and gentlemen, the Hot Stove Show will begin in a moment.
Nice. Windy conditions. It sounds as if. Retweet the Hot Stove Show. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Gangster Pete asking for a mic check. Gangster Pete asking for a mic check.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So this is what it is. Yeah. In case you hadn't seen it.
And he's actually meeting with the media right now.
Oh, is he really?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
You all right?
I don't, no, I'm fine. I don't know if it's... Okay. Hello, friends,
We're on.
and welcome. All it is one button, and
Wow.
the next thing you know, it's broadcast magic. It's the Hot Stove Show presented
see you,
by
Tim.
Mattress Direct. Dan, hello again, everybody.
Good. It's great to see you.
You look so good. You look so good.
Well, down here, the warm weather, the sun,
Yeah.
the fact that I'm turning in slowly to a lobster, feels great.
Yeah, it's pretty nice down here.
Pretty nice.
We have the Hot Stove Show here, and we welcome your questions, your comments,
You look great, too,
whatever.
by the way.
Do I really? Honestly,
great,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't feel the same. If I could just have something on top of my head, I would feel better about the whole production. Honestly, that's what I feel like.
Down here, you're allowed to wear the hat.
I know.
If you want to put the hat on right now, go get it.
Nah,
I'll fill it till you want
Here's a couple takes I have before while
Got a
Tim gets
couple
his
of hot
hat.
takes.
I'm a takesmith. Hey, you can comment, questions, whatever, in the Triad Bank viewer chat line that is on YouTube, that is on Twitter, that is on Facebook. And as we speak this morning from Jupiter, Florida, there is Cardinal news, and that's why Dan and I are with you, presented by Mattress Direct. It's the Hot Stove Show, which is / the Spring Training Show. Carlos Martinez news, sir.
Yeah, apparently, what is it, 2 weeks? They're going to start him on the throwing program again. And so we know that. We know he will not be a part of the opening day roster. So that has been decided. We knew that. And then at that point, we'll figure out, what direction he goes in. And I was saying before you and I began our show here today, in my 20-plus years of being down here, Tim, and coming and covering the team and watching day in and day out, I just can't remember pitching this deep. And I've talked to other people around the club. I just can't remember.
That's a big statement. That's a big statement. So I bet that excites some people to hear you say that. When you say that, what are the names that you're like? Flaherty and Scherzer. What was that?
Awesome.
2 days ago was outstanding. So
really
you got Flaherty. You got Michaelis. Who else gets you fired up when you?
A lot of guys. Helsley. I mean, I know people are like, well, Dan, you were talking about Helsley so much, and he was one of the first cuts. Well, the reason that they cut him is because they have so much pitching. Is that they needed to find ways to get him innings. So they actually moved him to the minor league camp so they could put him on his normal progression of every 5 days of pitching. And so he's still working as a starter, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he wouldn't come up immediately as a reliever, which is what they did with Rosenthal back in the day. And so I just don't remember that they had this much pitching and depth ever in my time of being down here with the Cardinals. Now, it's not only me, and one of the great things of being down here in spring training. So, for instance, when I'm doing the game, the press box of where we do the games, the lunchroom is right there. Then you go into your booth, and everything's really compact. And all the scouts, before they go down in their seats, which is right directly behind home plate in the sun, they kind of wait till the last minute to go down there. And so, Tim, I run into guys that I've known for years, and the common theme of all these guys is, wow, the Cardinals have a ton of pitching. And it's not just on the major league staff, it's not just in the bullpen, but it's in the minor leagues too. And they have depth, and it might be the talk of a lot of people down here in Florida that the Cardinals have great pitching. Now, it needs to come to fruition. Mm-hmm. We need to see it all come together. But that has been the talk of a lot of writers, national writers, and the talk of a lot of scouts is that the Cardinals, it's true, have a lot of great young arms that will impact the club this year and many years beyond. So that's what I think I'm taking away from this camp is that the Cardinals, it's been an efficient camp so far. It's been an open camp with Mike Shildt, a lot of communication, a lot of upbeat, a lot of movement. And the other thing is, it's been a camp with really good young arms.
Yeah, that's the major positive. I'm curious about because we know about Michaelis, we know about Flaherty. Flaherty was really good the other day against the Nationals, making reference there. A guy that was good, but then got hurt last year in Waka, and then a guy who we weren't even sure we were going to see pitch again.
Waka's been great too.
So that's what I wanted to ask about. I guess 3 and 4, I suppose, and then we'll get into 5 since I think we would say Michaelis and either Waka or Flaherty or the 1, 2, 3.
Yep,
how do you see Waka so far from what you've seen, and then also Wainwright? We saw him pitch on Saturday against the Astros.
Well, I'll tell you, I talked to a guy that knows him well. That knew him when he first came up and faced him, and then faced him the other day, and he said he's as good as he was when I first saw him. And he was talking about Michael Waka. Mm-hmm. He said he's back to where he was.
Wow.
And that was what he said. He said Michael Waka is throwing the ball as well as he was when he first came up. He said he's got the life on the fastball, and there's just that extra zip to it, which then offsets everything else. The changeup, the curveball, everything else. So I take him at his word. He said he's been that good. So that's impressive. Thing with Wainwright I really see is that he's just, velocity, it's not going to be the Wainwright that we saw from, 5, 6, 7 years ago where he's throwing low to mid-90s. But I think what we're seeing is a guy that is so smart. And he, like against the Astros the other day, which was against really, Tim had a lot of their
that was a
number one lineup.
That was fun to go over there, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's Springer, there's Bregman, wow,
there's Carlos Correa,
right? Yeah,
there was a lot of their A guys in there, and he had 4 scoreless innings. Now there were some balls that were hit hard against him, but as I was watching him, he was doing this with it. It was this in out. In, out, nothing over the middle of the plate. And, you know what? When you're a guy like Adam Wainwright and you're throwing 88 to 90 and you're spotting it, and then there was no dip in velocity for the 4 or 5 innings, it was 4 that day, you can get away with it. And he's spotting it, and he's keeping it in the zone. And I was talking with Jim Edmonds yesterday, and he said, man, he's just crafty. He's like, you could see how he was going after Correa. Cutter, curveball, sinker, boom, 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 different. He said he's just so smart and how he's doing it and how he approaches these guys. And he's able to do that and pitch at this level and pitch well, and he'll be fine. And so that was exciting to see.
Your thoughts are welcome. Triad Bank viewer chat line. Triad Bank is online at triadbanking.com. It's where Dan and I bank. It's where we recommend that you bank as well. They are St. Louis guys, a commercial bank, and a place that we really wholeheartedly recommend.
I was talking with Jim Regna the other day.
Were you talking to Jim Regna the other day?
Yeah.
The bank CEO. He's right there in the lobby.
He's going to be there on opening day.
Okay.
Are you going to opening day?
I am going to opening day. Padres in town. Hello,
yes,
everybody.
He would like us to come by, say hello. And I said, you know what, Jim? I have my duties. I know Tim has many stars that he deals with.
Responsibility. I mean, I think Larry Nickel is going to be in the parade with the Clydesdales. I believe. I think that's 50-50.
It is. But I said, me being the conduit between yourself, Jim, and Tim, I will try to get to Tim.
Yeah, it's tough to get to me.
It is.
Yeah.
We were texting late on a Friday night. So
that's when I'm most accessible,
yes.
Actually.
So I said, we'll try our best to get to Tim. So we need to hook up with Jim.
That is what we're talking 3 Thursdays from now. Am I correct? So 3
Yes.
3 weeks from tomorrow. How do you do? And you will be in Milwaukee 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Gosh,
how about that?
That is 2 weeks.
2 weeks from tomorrow, 15
You know
days,
what's really
right?
weird? I was looking. Well, finish your Triad Bank. Go ahead.
Well, Jim Regna. I mean,
Okay,
we know that we're big fans. Triad Bank.
Love
They're
Jim.
online at triadbanking.com. For real, if you're starting up a business or if you're a business bank, make sure you're looking for a business bank. Triadbanking.com, the sponsor of our viewer chat line. Send your questions, your comments in, and we will tend to them. Go ahead, sir.
The first trip of the season.
Milwaukee, Pittsburgh?
Well, it's actually longer than that, Tim. I don't have it in front of me, but the Cardinals actually will go from here, and I don't. So I may be wrong about this, but it's like an 8 or 9 day trip. It's kind of weird. The Cardinals will go from here to Memphis, so they're going to play in Memphis, and I think just one game. And then they go to Milwaukee, and I think there's like a mandatory off day per the PA for the players. Right. And then it's a 4-game series against the Brewers. But because the roof is there, so there's not like the mandatory off day after opening day because there's not going to be a snow out or rain out or cold out or anything like that. So then there's that, and then you go to Pittsburgh, and I think it's their opening day, and then you have an off day after that. So it's going to be kind of a long trip, and I think it's a night game before opening day in St. Louis. I don't like that.
I don't like that. I'm surprised they're doing that at this time of year. They try to get those day games in for weather purposes. I'm surprised by that.
And I would think,
I kind of nerd out on this scheduling stuff. I got to take a gander at this.
And I would like to see that it would be a day game before the Cardinals home opener because it's really, the home opener is just a hectic day. I mean, you got to get downtown early. You got to get the players situated. You want them down there early because it's nuts. It's it's kind of an unofficial holiday in St. Louis. The excitement of it, it's just a great day to be in town, and I think it's almost sold out. But if not,
is it really?
It's close. If not,
surprising.
Cardinals.com, obviously, but it will get sold out. So there you have the schedule in front of us.
Yeah, day game in Milwaukee 2 weeks from tomorrow for you, Fox Sports Midwest, and then at Milwaukee Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then off to Pittsburgh they go for the Monday game. And it's only 2 games in Pittsburgh. Yeah, how about that, Dan? So the Monday game is a day game.
Is that only 2 games in Pittsburgh? Is that right?
And then they have the off day, as you made reference to, the MLBPA, and then a night game for the second game on a Wednesday on April 3rd. And then that is a bad beat. That is bad, legitimately bad beat.
And then it's a weird deal because you open up on a Thursday and then have an off day in St. Louis on a Friday. Yeah. And then Saturday, Sunday, and then 4 with the Dodgers.
It's a legit schedule out of the gate.
Yeah,
I mean, start with the Brewers, even if you were playing, the Marlins and whomever else. But to start with 4 with the Brewers and then have, I don't know what you're going to get with the Pirates. The Machado bunch comes in, and then 4 with the Dodgers, and then off to Cincinnati, and then back to Milwaukee. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll be 2 or 3 Milwaukee trips will be knocked out by the time April 18th rolls around.
And then Milwaukee comes to St. Louis before
Right.
the middle of April or
Yeah.
the end of April is over. It's
24th.
it's a tough schedule early on.
So an important start. It's
Right.
good to have it's important to have a good start, is what I'm trying to say, out of the gate because of who they're playing on that. So we talked about Wainwright and Wacha. So if you got Michaelis, Flaherty, Wainwright, Wacha, and if you can kind of operate off that premise, it seems like, and this is what Derek Gould, who you can hear on Scoops with Danny Mac daily with his Cardinal reports, it seems like he thinks this thing is now down to Hudson and Gant for the fifth spot.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Now, Gant's going to make the team one way or another. He's
Right.
out of options. Mike Myers is out of options. And Chasen Shreve, who's the lefty picked up on the Luke Voigt deal, he's also out of options. But let's focus on those two specifically. Dakota Hudson pitched, Tim, last Friday. I went and watched the game. He was maybe the most impressive start I've seen out of anybody. I mean, he was spectacular the other day. And we've had some really good pitching performances this year down here in spring. I mean, he was awesome. And the value that you have in Hudson is that you love the fact that he's got this great sinker. And if you were a guy in the bullpen that was in trouble, you could bring him in and he'd get your ground ball, your double play, or maybe get you out of any inning and maybe multiple. I mean, he's such a weapon, and he's got great velocity, and he's a talent that we don't. I mean, we talk about Hicks because he throws 100 plus, and we talk about these young Helsley throws 100. I mean, this guy is a talent, really good, and Flaherty is this young stud. This guy's right there with him, and we don't talk enough about him. Now, the unsung hero of last year, to an extent, was John Gant. And you don't talk a lot about him because he's kind of the all shucks guy, you know. But he's really good too and valuable. So I think it's those two guys kind of battling it out, and you know they've got 2 weeks to figure it out. Gant pitched an inning yesterday in relief. Mike Schilt was saying that there's still the possibility of keeping him on schedule to have starts as we go along, and we'll see how that plays out now in the final couple of weeks here of this spring training.
One of the questions we got in the Triad Bank viewer chat line is we are here in the Design Air Heating and Cooling Studios, online at designairservice.com. What is the likelihood that the Cardinals make any trades or free agent acquisitions, even minor ones, before opening day? P.S. Thank both of you for the shout-out to my grandma on Fox Sports Midwest. Last year over Mother's Day weekend, you're both tied for first in my book. That comes from Jamie. My guess is the answer is highly unlikely at this point. What is yours?
Yeah, I you know, it's a good question because they have these guys that are, you know, right now, there are 3 guys, if memory serves correct, that right now are out of options. Gant, we mentioned, Shreve, Mike Myers. To me, they're all valuable pitchers for the Cardinals. And so usually in these spots, and you'll see it with other teams, if there's roster buildup, if you will, or you can't move guys, then you see teams trade.
Right.
I don't see the Cardinals doing that. I think these are valuable guys that the Cardinals like, so I don't see them trading them. And so that's why I would see a lack of movement. And the other reason is that the Cardinals, you know, I could see where fans are and me too, and maybe you and other members of the media would be enthralled with the idea of a Craig Kimbrell or, you know, Dallas Keuchel or some of these other big names. But what I'm talking about here is that the Cardinals have valuable arms that are coming. And when you think about not just this year, but the next year and the next year, these guys are developing, and I don't think they need to go out and get some of these guys. You know what I mean? I mean, they have them here. These are going to be valuable pieces for the Cardinals moving forward, and it's served them well to keep them in their system and develop them. And I'm not saying that they're going on the cheap, because they're not. I think they think these are valuable pieces that we're developing, we're comfortable with, and we want to keep them. We don't want to move them. Right. We like them.
Right.
And that's why they don't do it.
So with regard to that, Ben Fredrickson, who you also can hear on Fridays on Scoops with Danny Mac, wrote today in the Post-Dispatch, and I'm sure some people are talking about it, the Cardinals have the option to essentially have a super bullpen if they go with Carlos Martinez in the bullpen. When you combine him with what you already have, certainly two of the prongs right there would be Hicks and what we've seen from Andrew Miller, who appears to be healthy in 2019 as opposed to what he was dealing with in Cleveland in 2018. What are your thoughts on it? Because you were talking about Carlos Martinez in the bullpen before it was even being discussed, and now with the situation, that might change.
Well, I mean, you think about that bullpen. If he's healthy, it's, I think, potentially dominant. Now, you could do that if you felt then that your, let's say, quote-unquote, sixth and seventh starters you like, which would mean, in my opinion right now, would then be Austin Gomber or Daniel Ponce de Leon, or maybe even a Ryan Helsley, if that's, in your rotation down at AAA, or Ryan Helsley even comes up and helps your bullpen at some point in the major leagues. So, we haven't even talked about Brebbia. We're not even talking about Mike Myers. We're not even talking about these other guys that are major league talent and major league ready right now. Mm-hmm. We haven't even talked about Dominic Leone, who's had a quiet, very good camp. These are guys, Tim, that you have to have that help you. And, Carlos Martinez is an elite talent when he's healthy and when he's right. And I think it's fascinating how they view it's if they were sitting here right now, I think they'd say, and it's an interesting question, do you want him stretched out as a starter? Because you can always, if you stretch a guy out as a starter, you can always move him to the bullpen. You know what I mean? Because then you say, well, if you need to, you can just slide him right in to a bullpen spot and give you an inning or two or whatever you need to do. But he gives you the flexibility to go in the rotation. So I'm with you. I mean, at some point when he's healthy, he's in the big league somewhere. I mean, my God, the guy's a talent. But, man, if you think about shortening games, which you have to do, and let's face it, with a guy like Wainwright and Gant, they didn't go very deep into games last year. And really, the reality was last year, too, we haven't even mentioned Alex Reyes. If he's part of the bullpen, you're probably only going to get, let's say, 50, 60 innings out of him. That would be my guess. But outside of Miles Michaelis, I think the next closest, I needed to look this up, but it was like 160 innings or something like that, and it was Luke Weaver. Yeah. So if you're shortening games, you have to have a strong bullpen and multiple guys out there. And if you're throwing Carlos Martinez, Alex Reyes, Jordan Hicks, Miller, think of some of the names. You're throwing big-time arms at opposing teams, and it's not just waiting till the seventh. This is starting in the sixth or sometimes the fifth or whatever, and going at teams and saying, here you go, good luck. Yeah. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, that's super impressive and exciting to think about for fans. You're welcome to give your thoughts on it. Text in, post it on Facebook, post it on Twitter, or on YouTube. That's where you can find this program. It's the Hot Stove Show, presented by Mattress Direct. They're online at stlmattress.com. We had our spring training trip winner down here this past weekend. Sarah Golden was down here with her significant other, and they got to enjoy PGA National and the Cardinals and the Astros on Saturday. Some perfect weather, and we are very grateful to Mattress Direct. Shop local. And Sarah went to Mattress Direct, and the next thing she knows, Dan, she's on a flight with her and her significant other down to Cardinal spring training in Jupiter, Florida, and PGA National.
I got to tell you, Joe Pfeiffer of the Cardinals runs the Cardinals fantasy camp, of which you enjoyed.
I did. I believe I was camp MVP. I believe that.
Was that awarded? Okay.
I believe that. I wasn't voted that, but I believe I was camp MVP. There were 2 balls that got out of the infield. Joe Pfeiffer is with us. What is he? Is he chirping us in the chat or something?
Well, no. He wants us to do a show on a mattress for Mattress Direct.
If that's what Pat McKern and the people at Mattress Direct ask for, I can go into.
Let's just stop right there.
Maybe on one of those shows where you're calling the game and I'm doing it by myself. We'll have me bring out a mattress. Maybe I'll use Jameson's mattress in his crib. That would be.
He thinks we need to take it a step further and do a show.
To really commit to Mattress Direct as our title sponsor. The signage is not enough.
He wants us on a mattress.
Bring out a mattress. All right,
Yes.
maybe I'll do that on the week where you're on your way to Memphis and Milwaukee on Jameson's mattress, and we'll see what kind of traction that gets on
Yes.
that. Dan, you mentioned 50 to 60 innings for Reyes if he's in the pen. Do you see that as his role?
I do.
At this point, I mean, Mike Schilt talked about it yesterday, and they went to him before he pitched in
Yeah.
Orlando to say so.
Yeah, I do. I think that I can't get this visual out of me.
Yeah,
You just like this.
It's going to be wonderful. I would
let's
do,
just-
do great things for our career. Actually, people would expect it from me. They'd be like, "What the hell happened to Dan?" That's what would happen.
Weird things happen. Well, I do think that will be his role. I think they.
A one-inning guy, though, like the one-inning guy.
I
like
do.
we're going to bridge this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they look at him as just being so dominant that I don't want to say waste innings because it was interesting. I mean, Mike Schilt said there was a question of a minor league player, like let's call him a 4A, right? You have AAA guys, and then there's the 4A, a guy that goes up to the big leagues and comes down and goes back and forth. And somebody asked, well, when those guys go down to the minor leagues, what else do they have to prove? And he said, I don't like that statement. And I'm going to apply that to Alex Reyes because I don't want to say that what does he have, wasting innings in the minor leagues. They're not wasteful innings because he's still working on things. He's proving he's healthy and all that kind of stuff. But I will say this. I don't want to see him waste bullets, put it that way.
Yeah.
There's only so much that they're going to do with him and push him this year. I'd rather just see him in the big leagues, and if he's going to pitch, let's just do it in St. Louis, right? We've all wanted to see him. He says he's healthy. Now, John Mozeliak did make a valid point, and I saw and that was with the interview I do every Monday with him on the website.
Mondays with Mo.
Yeah.
Started up again.
And he said, he's looked a little rusty, and I'm paraphrasing here, and I would agree with that. Now, he pitched on Saturday.
Yeah, what do you think was going on in Saturday? The velocity was at 96. I was watching that.
He got up to 98, I think, at one point.
But he was having trouble, it seemed, locating the fastball, and it almost looked like I would describe it as overthrowing. What did you see there? Because he walked the first two he faced.
Everything was up a little
Yeah.
bit, maybe a little rushed. I think there was the excitement factor. It was only his second live game with the crowd and live action. Now he has pitched in the backfields against hitters. He did pitch yesterday.
Yeah.
And they said he was awesome.
Outstanding,
Yeah, I talked to people that were there, and he said it was like a different looking guy. It was like, okay, now he looks settled in. Maybe kind of finally getting a routine or whatever you want to call it, but more comfortable. And I think that's going to happen when you haven't pitched in 2 years. I think sometimes we expect these guys and boom, they're supposed to come back, and that's just not going to be the case. So get his feet wet again, crowd, live games, live hitter, umpire, you know what I mean? All those things.
Right.
But I still saw, as you did, 96, 98. And that's really what I want to see. He's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing. So he's healthy. And then the other thing was he got out of it. That was the thing I loved. It was like, he got out of it.
Yep.
Now it's horrible base running by the Astros. I mean, that was like watching us at St. Gabriel's in 5th grade. But he got out of it, and that was the main thing. But I see velocity, and I see every once in a while, like he'll snap it off, and I'm like,
Yeah,
wow.
It's so sick. I mean, it's a 20-mile-an-hour range with ridiculous stuff.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he's healthy. So I did see him a little. It looked a little nervous, didn't it? A little rushed.
Yeah.
Like,
Just fired up to be out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was more excited to watch him throw than seeing Springer, Bregman, and Correa out there. Hey, I want to talk about offense and get your perspective. My father-in-law was in here, and one of the first things he said to me is, what do you think about the offense from the outfield at this point? If you do look at the statistics, and I was in the clubhouse yesterday, 2 days ago, I guess, when Ozuna was addressing the media after his first start in left field, and somebody asked him at that point, I think 1 for 20.
Yeah.
And he goes, it's spring training. He goes, let's see how things are when it counts. So he was just kind of like, whatever. Bader off to a slow start. Fowler off to a slow start, although he had 2 hits against the Nationals.
And Scherzer.
And Scherzer, for that matter. Your perspective on these numbers?
Spring training, number one. I'll start with Ozuna, healthy, which is great. And our colleague Jim Edmonds, our buddy, was with him for a while yesterday, and we were talking. And he's really been working on his throwing with him specifically. I said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "He's going to be fine." He said every once in a while when we're playing catch or lengthening out and he's got to cut it loose, he said he can. He said so he thinks he's going to be okay, which I think is the number one thing going into all this stuff. Mechanically out of whack, he said, at the plate, but close. He said, so let's get, the other guys have said, let's get it out of the way now. So he got 2 weeks to figure it out. He said, but he's close. Yeah. And, like for a lot of veterans, that happens when you come down to spring training. So I would say out of those guys, I'm really not really too worried about him. I'll go to right field, Dexter Fowler. I'm really encouraged by what I've seen. Now, I know what the numbers say, but Tim, his body is different. His strength is way different, and I know that his upper body is way stronger. He has made a lot better plays defensively in right field than I think people give him credit for. This is not an easy outfield to play when you're down here in this ballpark because it's windy. You're about 6 miles away from the ocean. Right. It's not an easy outfield to play. And he's made some really good plays defensively, so that's encouraging. At the plate, I think he's stung the ball with more authority.
Yeah, Mike Schilt, I talked to him 2 days ago, and he said the numbers that we have now, the velocity on the ball coming off his bat is higher than it was last year, and so they're encouraged by that, even though, he's got 4 hits, I think, at this point?
Something like that, and that's what they've talked about. We're seeing signs, and that's what they want to see. So,
and then what about Bader?
So Bader is...
Because you said in the offseason, the one thing you want to monitor with him is how he fares against right-handed pitching and the slider. And what are you seeing at this point?
Adjustments. And he's going to have to make adjustments. But when you think about what he's going to have to do is he moves forward, is that teams are going to just continue to throw that against him. And it's just an adjustment as he goes forward that he'll have to continue to make. And there's times I see it. There's times I don't. He's a young player. But the thing you're going to have to consider, if you're a Cardinal fan, and he's a big part of this equation, is the defensive side of this team. And what I mean by that, I'm going to start with Molina, think up the middle Wong, and I think Wong's going to have a very good year under Mike Schilt. That there's a connection between those two. He's going to thrive. Then you go to Goldschmidt at first base, Gold Glover. DeYoung is a better shortstop defensively than people give him credit for. And then you have Harrison Bader. And what I'm saying is that if Bader is going to have times where he may struggle at the plate, but you're going to sacrifice that for what he's going to do for you defensively. Right. And the guy is a Gold Glover defensively. And so there's maybe going to be some growing pains offensively, but he's also going to walk in. I mean, they believe that this guy can hit 15 to 20 home runs. And then at that point, growing 20 to 25. And he's a strong guy. He's strong. Mm-hmm. And so keep working. They're going to stick with him. And the other thing that they love about him, Tim, is the fact that the guy works his tail off. I mean, there may not be a harder worker on this team. So they've seen improvement. Jeff Albert, the hitting coach, preaches contact. Yeah. That's the thing that they talk about. We'll sacrifice a little power if we have to, but contact. Cut down on the strikeouts, and we'll see if it pays off once the season gets here.
Final thought here on the Mattress Direct Hot Stove Show, live from Jupiter, Florida, in the Design Air Heating and Cooling Studios. The infield. Anybody at this point standing out to you? We saw Molina get his first start.
I got a guy.
I would imagine, I have a feeling I know who he is, and I'm anxious to hear you talk about him.
Who?
I was thinking you're going to go to first base.
No.
Oh,
no,
curveball.
No.
Where are you going here? I actually don't know now.
Cross the diamond.
You're going over to the hot corner?
Going to one Matt Carpenter.
What do we got going on here?
Awesome camp.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks...
There's been some rake show.
He looks locked in.
Yeah.
Quiet camp, locked in, spraying the ball with power everywhere, healthy, looks good at third. I'm not saying he's got, a Scott Rowland healthy arm, when Scott was, at his peak, but I'm saying it plays. You can tell he's kind of changed his motion a little bit. I'm going to ask him about it hopefully this weekend, but it definitely looks stronger. And, I mean, at the plate, locked in.
Yeah.
I mean, hitting the ball with authority. And I keep going back to the fact he just looks locked in, and he's healthy and looks good. And I'm excited. I think he's going to have a big year.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
With regard to Carpenter and the throwing motion, he talked about. He said, "Listen, I'm not going to have what you made reference to, a rolling kind of cannon, but he feels like he can do the job over there, and that's exciting." DeYoung, Wong, and then over to Goldschmidt. And if you do want to look at spring training numbers. The spring training numbers, not surprisingly, are there for Goldschmidt. And the thing that I have, whether it be Schilt or whether it be Edmonds, the leadership role he's taking, but not in a, loquacious, I'm going to stand up here and make a speech, but just by how he goes about it is the thing that's already caught people's eye, even though he's been down here for like a month.
Right. And it's kind of funny. He and Carpenter are...
Yeah, there's something doing there, isn't there?
Something going on there. Yeah, I'm going to try to get with Matt this weekend and find out what's going on.
They hit it off from the beginning.
Yeah, they're just see it. I mean, like during drills, BP, they kind of walk back and forth to the clubhouse together from the field. They're just, they're veterans. Been around a long time. You can tell there's a connection there, and I talked briefly with Paul the other day. I mean, he's a pro's pro, and
he really is.
He goes about his business, man. I mean, he's here to win, and there's something. I'll tell you something that I picked up with this camp, and I know we got to wrap it up, but this is always a telltale for me. Yachty. There's a spring in that guy's step, and now I talked to Ball Game about this, Jimmy. I said, there's something going on with him. I said, he's bouncing all over. He's happy. He's boom, boom, boom. Yeah. I said, not that he always, he's always engaged. Don't get me wrong. I said, but there is something going on with him.
Yeah.
And he said, you're right. And I said, but man, he is locked in too. Like he's really engaged in this camp. He's just, there's just something about, it's like you can sense that he knows that this is a good camp. Good team, maybe potential for a great team, but I watch him, and there's something about him that he knows. The great players know when there's a good team. You know what I mean? And he's got that just the look and the feel.
There is a confidence down here.
Yeah,
and you are much, much, much closer to it than I am. But I sensed it when we first got here. And a couple of things, and it's just kind of like, like Bader, when somebody had the Pacoda, and I think the Cardinals were what number was the Pacoda? I've seen
88.5 or something like that.
Yeah, the Las Vegas number is 88.5, and I think the Cardinals were at 89 on the Pacoda.
Maybe that was what, yeah.
But either way, Bader just quote retweeted it and just kind of had an eye roll emoji, and then I saw him and I asked him about that. I said, my read is you're 89 wins only for this team. We're going well beyond that, And so because they didn't get to the playoffs last year, understandably, it isn't looked at as a successful year. And I think most everybody with the organization would say that as well. But when you consider the health situation of last year, the trauma of what was going on with firing Mike Matheny in the middle of the year, how bad the end of the season was as far as not being able to get it done against the Brewers and the Dodgers toward the end, and no Paul Goldschmidt, and that team won as many games as it did. It was close to a 90-win team, and now those things are different going into this year. You can understand why there's confidence, and these guys legitimately are confident. And both of us have been around this camp now for 20 years apiece, and when it's kind of one thing or when it's bravado or if it's legitimate. And I really do sense that there is, I don't even know if I'd call it optimism. I just call it we're going to be good this year. And if you don't believe it, then you're going to see it here in a couple weeks.
Also, Mike Schilt, there's always, he just emphasizes with his coaches too, to make a point with those that they work with, the pitchers, the hitters, the defensive guys, we're always going to be positive. And the players feed off that. So, been a good camp. 2 weeks to go. Like you said, I can't believe that, man.
2 weeks from tomorrow, you will be able to see Dan on where are you going to be?
Fox Sports Midwest.
Nice.
Thank you.
I liked that. And you will be on Fox Sports Midwest on Friday night.
Friday night, 5 o'clock. We have. I should know this, but I don't know. Houston or Washington, but
I
we're
just,
at the
I just
we're
always
ballpark.
assume the Marlins will be there. That's what I operate
That's
off
always
the-
a smart
off the
play.
premise. You can't go wrong with
cannot go wrong with
putting
that.
something on the Marlins being present. Thank you to Mattress Direct. Thank you to Mattress Direct for sponsoring the PGA National trip for Sarah Golden this past weekend, for being our presenting sponsor. Design Air Heating and Cooling online at designairservice.com and Triad Bank. For Dan McLaughlin, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been another edition of the Mattress Direct Hot Stove Show.